This bill that comes before you is an act concerning the fees for veteran specialty license plates. One of our colleagues on the other side helped a great deal bring this bill forward, and it does a little bit of everything from adding former reservists in regards to this Vietnam War veterans. It talks about dishonorable veterans, and in regards to it, it gives a percentage off up to 50% for veterans and Vietnam War veterans. Move to adopt, please.
Questions on adoption of House Amendment Schedule A? The distinguished ranking member of the Veterans Affairs Committee, Representative Vail.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A few questions on the amendment.
Proceed.
So, line 59 through 69, it says any person who's eligible, a former reservist or surviving spouse of such person may submit a request, and it goes on to mention other criteria. Would that be just a request to be considered in this language as pertaining to the veteran's license plate through you?
Representative Nolan.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, that is a request through the Department of Veterans Affairs to be considered, yes.
Representative Vail.
And again, maybe I should clarify, I don't think I was too clear, and that's on me, but that this definition that we're using in this documentation is as pertaining to this issue only. He's having a hard time hearing me. I'll say it again. So I just want to.
Just a moment.
Yep.
Having a little debate here, and the two people can't hear. So if you could take your discussions outside and be a little quiet and give them some opportunities. Representative Vail.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just, for clarification, I don't think I phrased that question too well, but that in this definition for this person, such persons getting documentation, would that be for other programs too? Is that a documentation from the Department of Veterans Affairs in general to be considered as a veteran, or just to be considered as a veteran when in regards to the veteran specialty license plate through you?
Representative Nolan.
That is in regards to the special certificate for the license plate, I believe.
Representative Vail.
Thank you for your indulgence. I just had a chance to look at this. I stand in support of the amendment. Thank you. And I'm fine with a voice vote.
Representative Howard. Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a question for the proponent.
Proceed.
I'm just trying to ascertain, well, I'm looking at the amendment. So in line 171, which is tied to line 159, in the case of any veteran, which I know what that means under the language, who is eligible in 161 to get a, and then we skip down to 171, Military Order of Purple Heart plate. How does one become eligible to get a Military Order of Purple Heart plate through you, Mr. Speaker?
Representative Nolan.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I believe that is done through the same way in regards to going through the DMV, I mean the Department of Veterans.
Representative Fishbein.
Yeah, this is a legit question. I mean, when I was doing doors during the last campaign, I have a Purple Heart recipient who lives in my district. and they had complained to me that they couldn't get a Purple Heart plate because they had to register and pay a fee to be a part of this group. So although they had been injured, they had gotten the medal, the state of Connecticut would not let them get the plate because they weren't a member of this Purple Heart group that they had to sign up for and pay a fee to. So I'm trying to ascertain, does this fix that problem? Because then we go back to eligible, right? So in line 161, they have to be eligible. So we know they're a veteran. We know they've gotten the Purple Heart medal. The question is eligibility. And I can't find that in this language. So that's the legitimate, I'd like to be able to go back to that constituent and say, we fixed it. I know during the off session, we did inquire through the liaison of DMV, and they concurred that you needed to be a member because evidently this group creates the rules. So I guess that's the question. Will my constituent be able to avail themselves of this legislation and get one of these plates as a Purple Heart recipient without having to join this group through you, Mr. Speaker?
Representative Nolan.
My opinion is, I'm going to say, if they register through the Department of Veterans Affairs, then yes.
Representative Fishbein.
I'm glad to hear that. I do note that it says Military Order of Purple Heart. It doesn't say Purple Heart recipient. So, I'm hoping that that is the case, that I can go back to my constituent. I am in favor of the amendment. It's the best I can do at this point. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Representative Dubinsky on House A.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm a little confused by this. Perhaps the good proponent can clarify. In lines 165 through 175, there are a whole list of different types of military or veteran plates that somebody could be eligible for. This is all new language in this amendment. Through you, Mr. Speaker, are these new plates or are they plates that already exist? Through you.
Representative Nolan.
Through you, there are existing plates.
Representative Dubinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, that's certainly helpful. It would be, I would assume that there would be a lot more to it if each of these had to be created anew. Through you, Mr. Speaker, there is several references, and I apologize, I'm just looking at this amendment for the first time. There are several references to a eligible former reservist. But I don't seem to see a definition of what that means. Through you, Mr. Speaker, is there a definition of eligible former reservist? Through you?
Representative Nolan.
Can you give me a moment to look?
Sure. Representative Nolan.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I believe that it's any former reservist that was eligible in regards to, if you look at line 59 on page 3. So any person who is eligible Any person who is an eligible former reservist or surviving spouse of such person may submit requests to the Department of Affairs to be listed as a veteran based on such person's service in the reserve component of the armed forces.
Representative Bisky?
Okay. Doesn't seem to really. Okay, so I'm looking at line 80. There seems to be a definition here. As used in this section, eligible former reservist means any person honorably discharged from, and there's a list. But then I look at line 284, and there's another definition, and I apologize, since I'm seeing this for the first time, I can't tell if they're the same definition or they're different. Through you, Mr. Speaker, is the proponent able to shed any light on that? Two different definitions? Through you?
Representative Nolan?
Yes, through you, Mr. Speaker. On line 76, was that the first area you talked about?
Representative Bisky?
Or I'm sorry, line 81, is that correct? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Could you, Representative Bisky, what was the line number?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, line 81.
81, sir.
To me, Mr. Speaker, it looks like the same definition.
Representative Bisky?
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the proponent. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, sir. Will you remark further on House A? Is there any objection to a voice vote? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Will you remark on the bill as amended? If not, staff and guests, please come to the wall of the House. Members, take your seats. The machine will be open.
The House of Representatives is voting by roll. Members to the chamber or to your portals. The House of Representatives is voting by roll. Members to the chamber or to your portals.
machine will be locked and tallied. Mr. Clerk, could you announce the tally, please? Thank you.
House Bill 5048, as amended by House A. Title number voting 150, necessary for passage 76. Those voting yea 150, those voting nay 0, absent not voting 1.
Bill is amended is passed.